Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sharon Negdell. I'm director of the University of Arizona Water Resources Research Center, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our WRRC Water Webinar, Advanced Water Purification in Arizona. I'd like to just ask that attendees keep yourself muted. We will have some presentation made, which will be followed by Q&A, so please use the chat function to enter your questions. We will be recording this presentation and it will be posted on our website probably by Monday sometime. And anybody who's registered for the webinar will be notified when the recording is posted. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. The university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through educational offerings, partnerships, and community service. Before I make the introductions of today's webinar, I want to bring your attention to some upcoming events at the bottom right-hand corner of the slide up there now. We have a webinar on April 15th, where we have an expert from Kansas talking about their approach to groundwater management in the High Plains Aquifer. There are some co-hosted STEM webinars coming up that we always advertise through our weekly wave, which we encourage you to subscribe to. And then a very recent addition, John, if you want to go to the next slide, is in addition to the April 15th, we've just added a special Earth Day event. Notice it's at a different time than our usual, 9:00 a.m. And it's being co-hosted with the ASU Water Institute on a new book featuring the findings of a new book, Poisoning the Well. And I'm having trouble reading it, How Forever Chemicals Contaminated America. And the two authors and three of the people featured in the book, along with Ian James of the LA Times as the moderator, will be engaging in an online panel discussion. So we invite you all to check it out and register. We have information on our events page, as well as being released with today's weekly wave. So with that, again, it's really my pleasure to be able to introduce our speakers for today's webinar on advanced water purification in Arizona. This is really a very important and hot topic in Arizona and in many areas in the Southwest and water scarce areas. And so we have representatives of three of the leading cities and water utilities that are working on this. And so I'm going to introduce them now in the order in which they'll speak, and then I'll turn it over to Jim Swanson, our first speaker. So Jim is the Assistant Director for the City of Phoenix Water Services Department. He oversees technical services, including environmental services, asset and development planning, security management, infrastructure, record services, and process control divisions. Jim, do you have enough of a job? I don't know if they've given you enough there. Jim has worked for the City of Phoenix for more than a decade, previously serving as the Deputy Director over the Water Distribution and Water Meter Divisions, and holds a Bachelor's of Science in Geology from Arizona State University. He'll be followed by Kevin Rose, who is the Interim Water Director for the City of Scottsdale. Kevin began working for Scottsdale Water in the summer of 2017. He previously served as Collections Manager and Water Services Director, and has over 20 years of experience in the water industry. Kevin holds a grade 4 certifications in water treatment, wastewater collection, and water distribution. Received both a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and a Master's of Science in Environmental Management from Arizona State University. And then John Kmiec, who's the Director of Tucson Water. His career has spanned more than 30 years with an emphasis on water resource management, utility leadership, aquifer storage and recovery, and water quality challenges. Throughout his career and during his tenure as the director of Marana Water, John amplified efforts to shape Arizona's long-term vision and policy about sustainable water supplies, water quality, and the principle that all water has value. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and it's my pleasure now to turn it over to Jim Swanson.
Thank you, Sharon, for that introduction. Let me share my screen. All right. And so I will get started. Again, my name is Jim Swanson, and so I'm an assistant water services director with the city of Phoenix. And so I'm kind of helping with the role of moving forward our advanced water treatment plants. And I am very excited to be here to talk to you about Phoenix's future. So just a little bit about Phoenix before we start. Phoenix has been providing water quality services for over 100 years. We are the 5th most populous city in the US and the largest potable water provider in Arizona, serving about 1.7 million people. Our systems include 5 water treatment plants and approximately 7,000 miles of water distribution lines, providing over about 110 billion gallons of drinking water daily. We also own and operate 3 wastewater treatment plants and cover over 5,000 miles of sewer mains throughout the city to convey and collect that wastewater. We also recycle about 100% of our wastewater, delivering it for use in agriculture, energy production, urban irrigation, and wetland maintenance, making Phoenix one of the largest recycled water producers in the Southwest. And each year we produce about 70 billion gallons of recycled water that's put to beneficial use in the agricultural sector and in the energy production sector. To ensure that we're providing safe and reliable and affordable water services, the department employs over about 1,400 people. We have biologists and chemists and laboratory technicians who conduct over 1 million water quality tests annually to ensure regulatory compliance with over 100 regulatory and water quality standards. We also have 45 engineers and project managers who are dedicated to ensuring that our existing infrastructure, as it ages, we are rehabilitating and replacing that infrastructure. And we can't forget the teams of electricians, mechanics, instrumentation technicians, and certified operators who make sure every day that water services are ready at your tap when you want it. So when we talk about water in the desert, it's made possible through thoughtful planning and formal agreements to access our surface water supplies. On average, approximately 98% of the water we deliver to our customers is surface water from the Salton Verde and the Colorado rivers, and about 2% is from groundwater. Now, with that said, in August 2021, the U.S. Secretary of the Interior declared a Tier 1 shortage on the Colorado River. And in response to that declaration, the city of Phoenix declared a Stage 1 drought in June of 2022. This is important because as the new operating guidelines for the Colorado River are developed over the next couple of years, it'll be important that we have responses if there are shortages to that Colorado River water supply. And we'll talk about what some of those solutions are in a moment. So when we talk about our supplies, we currently have adequate water supplies to meet our demands, but with drought and the changing conditions on the Colorado River, we have a continued responsibility to plan and prepare for that future. As we look for possible solutions, Phoenix will continue to produce reclaimed water for agricultural irrigation and for energy production. At the same time, Phoenix will continue with our investments and our efforts to conserve and use water efficiently. In fact, our community's water demand is the same as it was 30 years ago. And in that time, our population has increased by 500,000 people, yet our water usage has remained constant due to our commitment of water conservation and the efficient use of that water. However, as additional solutions are needed to continue to stay ahead of our water challenges and the drought on the Colorado River, we have to set a course to ensure a future of reliable water supply for Phoenix. So one of our best solutions for that supply is advanced water purification. Through this renewable, sustainable water supply, we will be making the most out of every water drop count. The water process currently begins with treating our river supply. So you can kind of see that in the upper right-hand corner of the water cycle in that green circle. And so we take all of that water, all of our surface waters and groundwaters, and we move that water over to our water treatment plants where that water is treated to drinking water standards. We'll deliver that through those 7,000 miles of water mains that I mentioned earlier to all of the cities and the homes and businesses throughout the city. The wastewater that is then generated and collected by the city sanitary sewer is then treated at our water reclamation facilities and used for energy production. And you can see that in that purple circle with the reuse symbol within inside of it. And then that water then is then discharged to our non-potable users. And so again, that goes off for irrigation for agriculture and for power production over at Arizona Public Service to the largest inland nuclear power plant. Today, that water cycle is incomplete, but with the implementation of advanced water purification, it will complete that water cycle. And so we'll talk a little bit about what AWP is. So what is advanced water purification? So it is a proven and safe cleaning process that provides a renewable, drought-resilient source of water. So when starting from recycled water, and that recycled water comes from our water reclamation plants that we just mentioned earlier, we will take that water, we will implement proven technologies in a multi-barrier process to produce water that will exceed the current drinking water standards. The process will remove pathogens and microscopic organic material, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, chemical byproducts. It'll reduce the water salinity for improved water quality. And the final product is purified water that's ready to be added to the existing drinking water supplies that the city has today. So I don't want to go into too much of this slide, but I want to talk about a couple of the things that are on this slide. And so advanced water purification is the next evolution of water treatment. It marries or combines multiple existing technologies together to produce advanced purified water. The technology isn't new. This is not a technology challenge. It's a perception challenge. It's, however, the first time that we're going to be combining all of these technologies into a single water treatment plant. For example, today at our City of Phoenix Lake Pleasant Water Treatment Plant, we've been using GAC, granular activated carbon, and ultraviolet light to treat Colorado River water for the last 18 years. One of the treatment plants I previously worked at prior to the City of Phoenix has been using MBR, membrane bioreactors, and UV for the last 15 years. So when we talk about the mechanical and chemical barriers to the use of UV to inactivate pathogens and advanced oxidants to break down chemicals. And so you can see that in the UVAOP, right? That's the ultraviolet advanced oxidation process. So in that process, we're using ultraviolet light to inactivate pathogens, but we're also using oxidants such as chlorine or hydrogen peroxide, which will create free radicals that will then break apart chemical bonds. In the MBR and in the RO, we're using mechanical processes to actually eliminate by the size of porosity, right, to remove contaminants from the process. And when we start talking about reverse osmosis, we're really talking about doing mechanical removal at the scale of atoms. And so for the City of Phoenix, that RO process, that reverse osmosis process, will be targeting, if you think of it this way, we'll be targeting chemicals and molecules that are going to be larger than 5 atoms wide. So essentially, if something is 5 atoms wide, the RO will reject that water. Less than 5 atoms wide, roughly, that will pass through the RO and become our future drinking water. And so a water molecule, for just reference size, is about 3 molecules in size. And so we'll be using all of these technologies for physical barriers, chemical barriers to treat this water. As you can see from the map, using advanced purified water as a reliable water source is already happening in our neighboring states, and it's also happening across the globe. This is not anything new. What's new is the methods and the means at which we're putting all of these treatment processes together on one site. And so, for example, the Orange County Water Replenishment District in Southern California recently increased their decades-old program to reach about 130 million gallons per day, which is added to their groundwater supplies. If you've been to any amusement park in Orange County, you've likely had a chance to benefit/drink that water from this water supply. In Colorado, the city of Aurora, which is a suburb of Denver, has been using advanced purified water as part of their water supply since about 2010. And then there are more communities every day at various stages of planning, design, and operation of these advanced water purification facilities. So as I said earlier, right, we are committed to investigating and evaluating additional opportunities to strengthen our water supplies. To this end, we are looking to have 3 advanced water purification facilities. The first one we're moving forward with is what we call the Kmiec AWPF. That will be located in the northeast part of the city. Additionally, we'll be moving forward with our North Gateway AWPF, and that's in the upper left-hand corner of the insert, and that'll be serving the northwest portion of our city. And then our third facility that we're looking at will be 91st Avenue, which will be a regional facility, and it'll serve the southwest portion of the city. So when we start talking about specifics, we'll talk about kind of the Kmiec facility first. And so, as I said earlier, this is one of our first facilities, and it'll be looking to be in operations in 2028. We are currently under construction. The facility will be about 8 MGD in size. So from a perspective of what that means, that's roughly about 25,000 homes that will be receiving advanced purified water, or what we're branding as Pure Water Phoenix. And that facility will be a City of Phoenix facility only. As we look at our next facility, that next facility will be the North Gateway the North Gateway Advanced Water Purification Facility. It also is going to be about an 8 MGD facility, again, being able to serve 25,000 homes. Again, it'll be a Phoenix-only plant serving the northwest part of the city, and we are looking to have that facility come online in 2031 for direct use. But prior to that, in 2030, once the construction is complete, what we'll be doing for the first year of operations is we'll be taking that water and we'll be augmenting our groundwater supplies. And then we'll be collecting all of our data for our pilot facility, submitting that to the state. And then once approved by the state, it'll go to direct use in 2031. This is going to be one of our regional facilities. So this is the 91st Avenue facility, where we are focused on developing a regional AWPF partnership. And you can see on the screen that there are multiple cities: Phoenix, Glendale, Scottsdale, and multiple others. As part of this effort, we'll be evaluating, conducting feasibility studies, looking into state and federal funding opportunities. Currently, we are preparing for future activities, which include the start of design in 2029, and then the start of construction in 2030, and then with the direct reuse in 2035. So when we think of advanced purified water, the real challenge here is, I think, everyone understanding what it is and what it isn't. And so today, under the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, every water treatment plant has to meet those requirements. Arizona just recently passed an additional set of rules, which is going to have additional requirements for treating of recycled water to turn that into drinking water. And so when you look at these two sets of rules, you have what we call the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act plus the Arizona Advanced Water Purification rules. Those two things are going to equal pure water Phoenix. So again, we're going to be providing water that not only exceeds the Safe Drinking Water Act, but also the additional Arizona rules for water purification. And so one of the things we also like to say is, please, water should not be judged by its history, but by its quality. And so we want to make sure that everyone kind of understands that. At the end of the day, this is going to be some of the highest quality water that the city of Phoenix will be delivering to our customers. And so where are we going? What's our roadmap? So as we look at where we are now, we will continue with our public outreach efforts. We will continue to strategize for additional state and federal funding opportunities. As I stated earlier, we are on schedule for completion of the Cave Creek AWPF in the fall of 2027 and direct use of purified water in 2028. We will continue with 91st Avenue AWPF feasibility studies and remain focused on developing our regional partnerships. As we look to the future, we're going to be launching an advanced water purification mobile demonstration trailer later this fall. And so that'll give people the opportunity as we go to their neighborhoods for them to see, taste, smell, and touch the water. And then we'll be designing the North Gateway facility later this year also. All of these activities will ultimately lead to the development of advanced purified water that will support the water goals and needs of Phoenix and will provide a sustainable and drought-resistant water supply. So I do want to thank everyone for listening to me. And now I'm going to turn it over, I believe, to Kevin, who's going to take us to the next presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. And we'll hold questions until the end of all three presentations, but please, I see questions are starting to come in, which is great. So Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Sharon. Okay. Okay, so Scottsdale Water, we've been doing indirect for well over 20 years and kind of give you more of a history of what Scottsdale Water is. So I'll hit you with some numbers here and explain our history and also where we're going forward. So Scottsdale Water, one thing we always say, we're about 250,000 medium-sized city. A lot of our growth towards the north. And as you can see in this slide here, the elevation change is a big impact for us. We pump a lot of our water, whether it's groundwater or CAP water, we have to get it up north. And we have about 94,000 water accounts, mostly single residence family. And during summertime, our peak demand is right around 94 million gallons a day for the whole system or the whole city. We average about 60 million gallons a day of water deliveries, and that's all the way up to our desert mountain area, which is almost 5,000 feet, down to the southern portion, which is about 1,200 feet. And the drought is a big concern. As you can see with our water deliveries, we use a lot of Colorado river water. 70% of our water is Colorado water. The other portion is Salt River. We do have a small service area of SRP water. Then also our groundwater. We do use our wells from time to time for two areas. Peak demand during the summertime and also during our winter shutdowns. We do bring down the plants for our maintenance. We have two surface water plants, one on the CAP side and one on the SRP side. But the one thing that we're really known for here in Scottsdale is our reclaimed water, where we take that water, clean it up to drinking water standards, and either recharge it into the aquifer or we deliver it to our customers on the golf courses. So as you can see in this slide, this is our water campus. We're kind of ideal for advanced water purification because on one side we have the reclamation plant with our advanced water treatment, and the other side is our CAP water treatment plant. So as we clean the water or treat the water, if we have to go to direct potable, we're actually set up ideally for it because it would be essentially a pipeline from the wastewater side to the water side. I do want to point out one thing on the other graph there. You can see where the water campus is located. It's in the middle of the city. So that's where a lot of us are focused on the treatment technology, and I love it. The treatment technology. How do we do this, and how are we going to clean up the water? The other thing that we're thinking about is how we're going to deliver the water. How scenarios we're looking at is what is our peak demand in the summertime? Do we use recycled water more in the summertime or the wintertime? Just to meet the customer's demand as drought does become more imminent. So a little bit on the water campus itself. The reclamation side, we can treat up to 24 million gallons a day, and we average about 15 million gallons a day of wastewater coming in, and we clean it to a Class A effluent. In our advanced water treatment plant, it's the membranes. We use ultrafiltration and RO to clean the water. And we either send that to the golf courses. We're getting ready for summertime, which is peak demand. And during the wintertime, that's our optimal time to start the recharge. So like I said before, Scottsdale Waters, they've been doing direct potable recharge for well over 20 years. We have over 63 on-site recharge wells where we inject into the Vado zone. And as you can see, those green dots or highlights there on the map, that's where we inject the water. So we try to inject most of the water within the Scottsdale service area. We do off-site recharge. We try to minimize that just because we want to be able during drought scenarios start using our wells to mine the water to meet customer demands. It's not easy because we do at times find ourselves at wintertime as we're recharging, we have to send it off-site just because everything is at capacity. One thing we do tout here in Scottsdale, we like to tout it, not that we're Arizona's first to be permitted for serving recycled water, which we did, a demonstration only. It's up to 1,500 customers from 2019. We were Arizona's first. And as Jim pointed out earlier, its process itself has been around. It's the X factor that we're trying to get over. And during our academies, we'd serve it, and it took a while. Some people were nervous about drinking the water, but when they drank it, they're like, wow, this is great tasting water. The other thing that we're really proud of is the regional partnership that's going on locally. Kmiec is taking the lead on a regional plant at 91st. We're part of that study. We're thankful for them taking that lead because it's not an easy task. And we also know from a utility perspective, it's not just one utility, it's got to be all of us working together on it. And we do meet regularly with Tucson and Kmiec to go over the challenges with advanced water purification. So next steps for Scottsdale Water. We're looking to start our design for the pilot August 2025. We're actually got some preliminary designs for our demonstration. Some things that we're noticing, recruiting for advanced water treatment operators, it's going to be a major challenge. We have to get operators that understand the operation, but also have to understand water and wastewater treatment. There is a shortage of operators. We're all doing what we can to incentivize individuals, not only to get in the industry by going to high schools, community colleges, trade schools, but also trying to let them know what the great career that water has. So some more on the staffing challenges. Again, shortage of trained and qualified operators. Certification requirements. A lot of our surface water plants are grade 4 water or water treatment plants. And for the reclamation side, they're grade 4 wastewater treatment plants. Trying to find those grade 4 operators is tough. And there's going to be additional certification requirement and testing, which is expected for the advanced water treatment. There's also items where we have to have direct responsible in charge on each shift, which is a little bit different than what we have now on the water side and wastewater side, where you don't have to have that direct responsible in charge in each shift. So as we implement this new rule that was finalized March this year, getting accustomed to it, a lot more questions come up. We're thankful for ADEQ's collaboration on it as we work through this, and it's becoming a challenge, but I think the industry as a whole, locally and statewide, we're up to it. So with that, that is my last slide. I will turn it over to John, where he can explain Tucson's direction they're going.
Great, thank you so much, Kevin. If you stop sharing, and then John will be able to share his slides.
Yep.
There we
There
go.
we go. Thank you. Let's see. All right. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Last time I looked, it looked like we were close to 150 people, which is fantastic. So Tucson is kind of new to this. We had a discussion from Jim from Kmiec, and then Kevin from Scottsdale and their programs. Now they've been thinking about it for several years, but the Tucson program is something that is actually brand new, that we're dipping our toe into this as well. So many of you might be asking, why Tucson? why are they moving forward to advanced water purification? And that's going to be kind of the point of my presentation going forward. So just a reminder, City of Tucson and Tucson Water, we serve about 750,000 customers. Many of those customers are in the City of Tucson, but about 30% of our customers are actually located outside of Tucson. Whether it's the town of Marana, the eastern and southern parts of Marana, many in the unincorporated parts of Kmiec County, a little bit in Oro Valley, and the whole community of South Tucson as well, among some other places. So we serve that 750,000. We're one of the country's largest groundwater systems as well. But I put an asterisk on that because I know many of you know that we also use Colorado River water. However, we don't use it like many of the other cities along the Central Arizona project uses it. We turn it into groundwater. So we can still claim that we are a groundwater system. So let's look at some of the history of Tucson. Get my slide to advance here. There we go. Okay, found the button. Okay, so historical water use for Tucson's service area. This is a chart we like to use in a lot of our presentations, and it really summarizes really well where Tucson has been, where we are today, and what we see moving forward. So you can see going from 1940s up to the late 1980s, Tucson was pretty much 100% groundwater system. And that was one of the reasons why the Central Arizona project ended up coming not only from Lake Havasu to the Phoenix Valley area, but then going south and going uphill all the way down to Tucson. Tucson had no surface water supplies left in southern Arizona. They dried up with groundwater pumping around the turn of the last century. And so there really wasn't a sustainable surface water supply even located in the Tucson area for many decades. So it was important that the Central Arizona project made it all the way uphill, down south to the Tucson community to not only benefit Tucson Water, but some of our other partners in the area as well. So you see in the early 1990s, you see that little blip of light blue comes into play. That represents our Colorado River water as it got introduced to the community. It did get introduced as a surface water at our Hayden Udall surface water treatment plant. But as some of you know, there was some poor water quality matching between the native groundwater, historic groundwater, and the treated Colorado River water in Tucson. So the community quickly abandoned that effort to do surface water treatment and went back to being a groundwater-based system for the most of our production. We also have in the mid-1980s, moving forward, the bottom color, which was the purplish color. That's our reclaimed water system, meeting a lot of demands locally. And then that teal-like color in between there was our Tucson Airport remediation project. So that was actually recovering TCE laden waters on Tucson's south side and from contaminated Superfund site area and producing a potable water that was distributed to the community. But then you have the light blue come back into play around 2000, and that's the Colorado River water now being introduced back to the community as a groundwater supply through aquifer recharge and recovery, which we've been doing predominantly in the western part of our service area in Avra Valley, where the city owns a lot of property. Quickly, the CAP recovered water becomes our dominant supply, and we can comfortably say that most groundwater mining in the Tucson active management area related to the city of Tucson has all but ceased over the last several years. So we've been fully renewables with our total water production, whether it's recycled water, treated, remediated water, or recovered Colorado River water. The other interesting thing about this graph, and Jim mentioned it with the city of Kmiec, is we also had a peak in total production around the year 2000. But you see where we're at today. So we're at a 2023. We're operating just around 100,000, a little more than 100,000 acre feet of total water production a year. That is equal to what the city of Tucson was using in the late 1980s. So the conservation efforts of the community, the change in water use patterns, we've grown by more than 200,000 people in our service area, but we're still using approximately the same amount of water we used in the late 1980s. Next slide. So why is Tucson getting into the advanced water purification business? Well, we had an opportunity, and we are not in a crisis. So we're taking advantage of that. Part of that opportunity is all related to the system conservation efforts for the Colorado River. Now that we are very much dependent on the Colorado River for our base supply going forward, we know what the strains are on the Colorado. We know that Tucson, which holds the largest municipal contract inside the state of Arizona, at 144,191 acre feet of contract water per year we can order, has that dependency for the Colorado, and we know the whole Colorado is changing. So, opportunity here during the first bucket one, what it was affectionately called, and then under the Bureau of Reclamation System Conservation Program, the city of Tucson decided to turn back a total of 110,000 acre feet of Colorado River water, left it on the river, and used the cash exchanged for that to help us with some infrastructure projects, to making our CAP facilities more reliable and resilient, and additional infrastructure upgrades that would help the water supply in the Tucson area, and including several water quality projects. Because another one of the big challenges we have in Tucson that some of you know about, maybe not all of you, is we have one of the largest PFAS impacted aquifers. And I think Sharon's talking, one of her future talks that she mentioned in the advertisement before is coming up, is in the next few days. Tucson has a huge issue for PFAS contamination. We are on a sole source aquifer as defined by EPA, meaning we really have no other water coming in or coming out or going out, like to a river or an ocean. And so everything that happens in the Tucson Basin is essentially stayed here. And when you have something like a forever chemical like PFAS, we've recognized over the last 15 years the tremendous impacts that it has, not only in the Tucson urban environment, but in the groundwater quality underneath the historic Santa Cruz River, going throughout the Tucson community, through the town of Marana, and up into Pinal County. So we're using some of that system conservation money for those to help us with some projects as well. But where advanced water purification came into Tucson's picture, it was under bucket 2. So we decided to propose a 2.5 MGD advanced water purification plant. This plant would be located near our wastewater provider, which is the regional wastewater provider of Kmiec County, Wastewater Reclamation, and they have a facility located at Tres Rios, which is Ina and I-10 area. In exchange, we're going to leave about 56,000 acre feet of water over a 10-year period on the Colorado River. And from that, the Bureau of Reclamation is paying for our advanced water purification plant, which has an estimated cost of $86.7 million to do that 2.5 MGD facility. Again, the opportunity to take advantage of this was from an ethic that we have in Tucson from our community to diversify our water portfolio whenever an opportunity arises, so we don't have to do water resource planning in the future under a crisis scenario. And so this opportunity arose, and we decided to take advantage of it, and that's where we're at today. So Another reason, why is it important for Tucson to do this? Oh, I mentioned the water quality challenges that we're having. We've lost well capacity, particularly on the northwest side of our service area due to PFAS contamination and 1,4-dioxane contamination in the aquifer. Aquifer is highly impacted in many areas that we have. We currently have nearly 40 wells that we've lost over the last several years because of impacts of emerging contaminants like PFAS. And then we're currently designing a treatment plant to recover 3.7 MGD of wells that have been shut off on the northwest side that were impacted by PFAS and 1,4-dioxane to bring that back online. The cost for that treatment plant alone, using some bipartisan infrastructure monies that were moved through our state WIFA, it's nearly $34 million to build that. So when we started looking at what it's going to take to do wellhead treatment on a lot of our lost capacity of our groundwater system, we started comparing that to why not just have a centralized treatment to do advanced water purification, and maybe we don't have to go to these impacted areas of the aquifer to start doing these combined wellhead treatment programs, which is at an incredibly expensive cost as well. So we have many stakeholders who own effluent in the Tucson region, not just the city of Tucson. One of the largest effluent entitlement holders is the Department of Interior with the Bureau of Reclamation, who holds the first 28,200 acre feet of effluent produced by our regional plants with Kmiec County. They hold that on trust of the Southern Arizona tribes down here that are part of the Swanson agreement. Then the city of Tucson is the next large entitlement holder, and then many other water districts, including a portion of it for Kmiec County, own other portions of our effluent in the area. And most of it is recharged in what's called the Lower Santa Cruz project, and that's what this map is showing. It starts around the Tres Rios plant at I-9 and I-10, and it flows. It is the discharge. It is a managed recharge project that is discharged to the Santa Cruz River, but it terminates at Trico Road. Beyond Trico Road, the effluent does spread out in that very northern part of Kmiec County and flows into Pinal County, but it is essentially lost. Once it goes beyond the regional managed recharge project, it is lost water to the community. So by building an advanced water purification project, we're hoping to retain some of that water that has been lost, not only to the city of Tucson, but all of our partners, including the Bureau of Rec and the other providers. So what does that look like? So what we were able to show to the Bureau of Reclamation on what the lost effluent is, going past that Trico stream gauge in the managed project, you can see it's significant volumes of water. It's significant lost resources to the whole community. Look at the year 2021, the river did not recharge very well. Once, every now and then the river gets plugged up if we don't have large scouring events, keeping it clean and allowing recharge to occur. And in 2021, almost 20,000 acre feet of effluent entitlement in the Tucson area, not just the cities, but the bureaus and a lot of other people, was lost past that Trico stream gauge and lost into the fields and the cow pastures in southern Pinal County, and not appropriated to us anymore. So having an advanced water purification plant that can scalp some of that water back would help get it back into the urban water cycle and more local control for that. So some of those projects and how we see it and how we pitched it to the Bureau is a portfolio diversification. Not only do we have our historic groundwater, we have our Colorado River entitlement, which we know and expect it to change post 2026. We have our traditional effluent uses, which is in our recycled water supply, but we're looking at that portfolio diversification for the drinking water side by bringing in advanced water purification into the mix. Economic development, also making sure that as part of having that diversification, we're setting ourselves up for the future. This is only a 2.5 MGD plant. Our current demand on average is just under 100 or around 100 MGD a day in the Tucson water system. So we're only looking at somewhere can fluctuate between winter and summer. Somewhere between a 2 to 5% of our total daily demand would even be met with advanced purified water with this small scale plant. System losses. Now I explained that water resources are lost through the community by leaving the managed recharge project in the Lower Santa Cruz, and then reduce dependency on going back to groundwater itself, which our groundwater is impacted, and any of those things that might require additional treatment efforts to be able to bring back as a source. So we had in, I would say, a kind of implicit approval to do this, as I mentioned, on our One Water 2100 plan, which is our long range plan for the community. Our council adopted in October of 2023. It was a focus on the 4 main waters, which I just talked about, whether it's traditional groundwater, surface water, and CAP, recycled water, and stormwater now, and rainwater harvesting in Tucson. The community identified strategies, large community effort in this to identify strategies to make Tucson more resilient. And under our recycled water portfolio and strategies that the community identified and our community stakeholders identified, they said in RW-2, which is on the screen, begin purifying recycled water to drinking water standards. And like I mentioned earlier, this was all in a long range planning effort. And it was to make sure that Tucson never would have to plan again in a crisis. It could look to plan in times of, in times of plenty or in times of calm, to ensure that our water resource plan beyond the year 2100 can be met. And the community realized the loss of water resources that is currently occurring from our recycled water program. And they gave us essentially a guiding light and direction that we can, if the opportunity arises, begin purifying recycled water to drinking water standards. So where we're at to date, because I know we have a lot of questions. Since this is kind of new for us, we're the next one to jump on bandwagon here. So the Bucket 2 proposals were submitted to the Bureau in 2023, and then we didn't hear much for a long time. But then they finally came back and they said they liked our approval, and so it was just approved to move forward with this system conservation plan to get funding to build our advanced water purification plant on January 7th. CAP Board of Directors then approved the subcontract exchange with the federal government. And by January 15th of 2025, we had the Bureau of Reclamation signing event down here in Tucson to celebrate this new endeavor. And we like to say this is a partnership between the Bureau of Reclamation and the city of Tucson to get this done. So we're at the first phases of our site evaluations. We're actively working with Kmiec County Wastewater Reclamation to identify a place that makes sense from not only an engineering standpoint, but an economic standpoint, near the Tres Rios facility, where the city of Tucson can stand up this facility. And we're looking at our historic water quality data, and we're starting to look at our source water data. That's all required as part of the rule. Starting our branding campaign, we're doing that branding campaign actually in collaboration and cooperation with the city of Phoenix and others. So it'll be known locally here as Pure Water Tucson, and Pure Water Tucson will not only be describing this 2.5 MGD plant, but our demonstration facility that we also plan on building at our Sweetwater Reclaimed Water campus, where we have a building that we're going to convert into a public amenity for demonstrating low volume advanced water purification there. And we're getting ready to we're working on the RFQ for the project going forward. We're looking at design, build, operate scenario as of right now. So one of the agreements with the Bureau of Reclamation is we need to have the capital pretty much substantially complete by September of 2031. So that's our target for bringing it online and with the final construction efforts at that time. So I believe this is my last slide. So I am going to, if I can find my cursor, stop sharing, and I'll turn it back over to you, Sharon, for questions.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your very cogent and informative presentations. And so we've got all of our three speakers. I tend to go in order. We have a lot of questions here. I have some of my own. I'll defer those for now, or I might interject them as some others come up. Probably we don't necessarily have time for all of you to answer all of the questions, but if one person starts in an answer and somebody wants a supplement, feel free to come in and do that, because we want to help get as much information across as we can. And I want to note for those in attendance, we go until 15 minutes after the hour, so we have just under 20 minutes for a Q&A. We know people leave on the hour for other meetings and so forth, but we will go till 15 minutes after the hour. So I'm going to start with Walter Kozar had a question, and then he had a later one, and I think it's easy enough maybe to combine them. And that is, and he put this in Jim Swanson after you were speaking, but it's relevant to all, but maybe I'll look to you first, is what do these facilities cost, both in terms of capital and operation? And then he later asked a question about, is the scaling up linear or is it something other than linear? So if you're going from a small scale to a large scale, that it's 10 times the quantity, does the cost go up 10 times or maybe more, maybe less? So Jim, do you want to start off with answering those questions?
Yeah, I can start. And so we have our first facility, right, which is the Kmiec Advanced Water Purification Facility. So that facility is currently under construction. And so that is going to be about a $300 million facility for about 8 million gallons a day, or about 25,000 homes. As we start looking at the much larger facility, the regional facility with Scottsdale and others, that facility is going to be anywhere between 50 to 80 million gallons a day. And so the costs are not necessarily exponential, but they're not also linear, right? And so we will see in general a much smaller cost, dollar per million gallons, for our larger regional facility, our ADMGD facility, but the costs are still very expensive.
Kevin or John, do you want to add anything to that? And what about the operational costs? Do you want to say, anybody say anything about that? Because I think, Jim, you just cited some of the capital costs, so.
Yeah, I would confirm what Jim is saying. Capital wise, we're looking about 10 MGD. Some rough numbers that I've come across is 67 million for us, but that's a treatment train. It's not a full plant. So that gives you kind of an idea. If you got to do a full plant, it's real expensive. We're doing a treatment train. So then we're looking to implement 5 million gallons a day first, then scale up to 10 million gallons, but we'll do the whole 10 initially. Operating, I don't have that offhand. Good question though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll just add to it. We plan on being with our 2.5 MGD facility for some time period, just because we're not in a crisis scenario as of yet. So, but I think one thing that we're all hoping to see is some of the specialized equipment, whether it's the UV, as well as any type of the other resins for emerging contaminants, that as more people globally are getting into this advanced water purification business, hopefully the market will start to adjust and more competition for advanced treatment infrastructure will hopefully stay steady and start to come down over the decades to come.
Yeah, I will add that from an operational perspective, right? The treatment technologies are very energy intensive, right? RO is very energy intensive. Ultraviolet light is very intensive. Ozone is very intensive. So from that standpoint, operational costs over a conventional facility are going to be a little bit higher just because of those energy demands.
Right. Right. So the next question actually has to do with the water quality question about will the water, when delivered, have higher chlorine concentration than currently? Or, if you want to talk about any of the disinfection products and treatments, anything to say about chlorine or anything else?
Well, I'll jump on this one. So water coming through an advanced water purification plant should be essentially void of any total organic carbon that is remaining. So if, and I'm assuming all of us are using some type of free chlorine scenario, which shouldn't be compounding any disinfection or creating any disinfection byproducts with water coming on at any of our treatment facilities, just because there won't be a lot of that background chemistry to even make disinfection byproducts.
All right, and then I'm not sure if I totally understand the question here, but you may, and that is, Taylor asked a question: how does ADEQ's advanced water purification rule compare to other state primacy agency regulations? And I don't know if that's referring to other states or not. So anybody want to talk just about how our rule compares to others, if there are other comparable rules in the country? I'll turn it into that question, and Taylor can put in another comment later if I'm not asking the right question.
Jim, you're closer to that one than me.
Yeah, and so all water providers across the US have to meet the Safe Drinking Water Act. And that's kind of where it ends from there. What's happening is you see across the country, all the different states are coming up with their own rules when it comes to advanced water purification. And so California has a different set of rules and requirements on their treatment requirements, their pathogen control, which chemicals you have to remove from the water. Arizona has its rules, which just were passed this last March. And so for the techies out there, what that means is that under the current Safe Drinking Water Act, from a pathogen removal, you have to remove 99.99% of all the pathogens from the water we deliver to you today. So we call that a 4-log removal. In the future, under the AWP rules in Arizona, again, all the states are doing their own different rules, but in Arizona, the technology that we're going to be using is RO, and we're going to be required to remove 13 log removals. And so think of that as 9 point, and then add 11 nines behind that. So that's how much cleaner the water is going to be from advanced water purification. So generally, everyone has to follow the Safe Drinking Water Act, but when it comes to the AWP rules, every state is creating their own rules. We imagine that somewhere down the road, right, the EPA will come in and try to then consolidate all those rules. But as of today, that's how it's occurring.
And I'll just add to that, the ADEQ didn't do this in a vacuum. So they particularly working very closely with the Water Reuse Association and the Water Reuse Association state section of Arizona. They looked at a lot of those other states, whether it was California, like Jim referenced, the new Colorado rules, the Texas rules, what's going on in Florida, and they were able to put together a rules package that is very, very similar. They're all very similar, but they all have their slight little differences that they have. So,
yeah, and Taylor confirmed that I did ask the right question. I wasn't entirely sure, so thank you, Taylor.
That's good, because I wasn't going to change my answer.
I think Jim answered Julia Fonseca's question enough about the anticipated production cost. I would say if not, we can come back to it, Julia, later on. I'll note Kim Mitchell, and again, some of these came in during or after Jim's talk, said very informative, nice to see Phoenix at the forefront of developing new supplies. Lynn asked who is contracted for, and this was also in the Phoenix context, for the design of these AWP facilities, the ones you've already have under contract. Who's doing the design is the question.
Yeah, and so for our Cave Creek Advanced Water Purification Facility, our design engineer is Black & Veatch.
And for Scottsdale, we're teamed up with Barolo. They've been heavily involved.
And John, you're not there yet, right?
not there.
Yeah. Okay, and then Guy Carpenter asked a question, and I'm going to combine it with a later question. And I actually had the same question Guy did. And that is, will less water go to the Palo Verde nuclear generating station over time so that more potable water can be produced from recycled water? And there was a complementary question below about whether doing the regional treatment at the 91st Avenue treatment plant would affect some of the flows that are going down to support the riparian areas downstream of 91st Avenue, which I think is your Tres Rios, which was the first Tres Rios, project or whatever, but that may not be what it's called. But anyway, Jim, or given that Phoenix operates the 91st Avenue, and I think you understand the two questions. Can I direct that to you?
Yeah, and so there will be no reductions to the flows that we currently send to the 91st Avenue Tres Rios project. So that facility will continue as is. When it comes to the Palo Verde nuclear power plant, we again will continue to send our water to Palo Verde to support that facility. There are some opportunities to provide additional waters to Palo Verde. So because of the RO process, the reverse osmosis process, we'll be generating a lot of brine from that process. And so we'll be having discussions with APS and Palo Verde to take that additional water with that brine in it, and then they'll take it there. They'll then treat it by removing the brine and then use it for their cooling towers. So we don't see any reductions in what's going to Palo Verde or to Tres Rios. What we will see, though, is reductions of our excess effluent that are discharged to the river that are currently used by downstream agricultural farms.
And in fact, there was a question from Tim about how do the filtered contaminants get disposed? And you talked about the brine, particularly in the context, Jim, of the 91st Avenue treatment plant. But what about the smaller plants? Do any of you want to talk about the byproduct, the brine, whatever you want to call it, that's coming, the stuff you don't want out of the treatment process?
Well, for Scottsdale, the way we're set up, we don't have any solids handling at our plant. We actually send all of our waste from our advanced water treatment plant to 91st. That's part of our daily allocation. On average, we send about 9 million gallons a day, 8 to 9 million gallons a day to 91st. That's this wastewater we cannot capture. So Jim gets all my brine waste.
Yeah. And then, as I said, we'll treat it and then send it on to Palo Verde, who will then further treat it and reuse it in their cooling towers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and depending on how much brine, how much RO we'll be using in our system, our current plan is just to work with Pima County and send it back to the front of their plant. Having a 2.5 MGD plant, we'll only be making a couple 100,000 gallons of concentrate.
Okay, yeah, and if anybody hasn't been to Palo Verde, the water treatment facilities out in Palo Verde are quite significant.
They are awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's a question from Thomas about what are the advantages compared to just injecting the AWP water into the aquifer, which is what Orange County does. And I've actually asked them the question. I'm not going to give the answer because I shouldn't, why they do that extra step with their highly purified water. But would any of you like to take the first stab? John, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take the first stab from Tucson. So we're on like I mentioned in my talk, we're on a sole source aquifer, single aquifer system, and our aquifer is already contaminated. So there's no advantage to doing high quality advanced water purification at the surface to put it back in the ground, only to end up having to probably treat it again when we recover it later. So that's kind of what we're doing now. We have some of those plants that we're doing advanced treatment on is essentially indirect reuse plant that is either affected by stormwater or wastewater effluent in the community. So purifying the water at the surface, it doesn't make sense for us to recontaminate it.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll give a different mindset. we've been doing indirect since the mid 2000s, and that's still on the table for us. Do we expand our well field? We have about 23 active wells right now. We are looking at, do we drill another 2 wells at the campus if we can? We're still looking at the aquifer there, capacity wise, just because the one thing we have to balance is the economics behind this. We're partnering up with 91st as a regional. And I think your latest estimates, Jim, are over $1 billion for that. So then you have to look at the cost per acre foot, and it's not going to be cheap. And we're doing it now. Can we expand it? Don't have an answer yet, but that's something for at least Scottsdale still on the table.
And then there was a question that you've covered in part, at least, about the energy implications of AWP and how it might impact energy demand, rates, community climate mitigation goals long term. And the second part of the question is, are there considerations being included in site designs to reduce energy demand? So I'll put that out there and let any one of you respond to that. We already established it's energy intensive, but beyond that.
I think with any design, I won't speak for Tucson or Phoenix, we're all energy sensitive. We look at the shoulder, look at the peaks. That's just day in, day out. So as we do design this, yes, that is a consideration, and that's discontinual operation in all of our operations. There's certain times of the day we won't start a well as long as we have reservoirs full enough, and we'll wait for, off demand to start that well just to make sure we don't have that energy charge.
Yeah, the other thing I would add too is we currently have solar at our Lake Pleasant water treatment plant. And so as we expand some of our other facilities, the city will continue to look at solar opportunities to help mitigate some of those additional costs for treatment.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's a big one. It took a few questions deep to get to it. Does AWP reduce pharmaceuticals content rather when delivered more than other water sources? But the whole question of pharmaceuticals, and I asked that of you, John, at a session we were at a few months ago. So does this get the bad stuff out?
Yes, and that's what's so interesting about not only ADEQ's advanced water purification rules, but what the other rules are. Like Jim said, everybody operates under the Safe Drinking Water Act, but what advanced water purification rules are is addressing non-regulated contaminants, in a nutshell. And that could be pharmaceuticals, that could be PFAS, that could be other volatiles that are unregulated, like 1,4-dioxane. So having that multi-barrier approach is not to meet the Safe Drinking Water Act. Having that multi-barrier approach is to meet the Safe Drinking Water Act and whole classes and suites of unregulated compounds and chemicals that are out there, including pharmaceuticals and PFAS.
Yeah, and from a really technical standpoint, right, the way RO units work is they're not necessarily based on size of the molecules. They're really based on their molecular weights. And so when you look at an RO unit, their molecular weight cutoff for how much a molecule weighs is around 150 to 200 grams per mole. And when you look at pharmaceuticals are in the 600, 700 grams per mole. So they're 3 to 4 times heavier than what is removed through RO, right? Because water is sitting at around 6 to 10 grams per mole. So water is passing through, the pharmaceuticals are getting rejected.
And if any pharmaceutical does get through for some unknown reason, most of these programs are going to have advanced oxidation right behind it. That's going to fix a hydroxyl radical and then use ultraviolet light to smash those molecules into base components.
So I'm going to know we have 5 more minutes left, and there are still some pretty meaty questions here. So I'm going to maybe skip around a little bit, or maybe combine some of this. There was a question that came up about public acceptability. You, Jim, very early in your comments talked about perception challenge. I think, Kevin, you talked about ADEQ. And I wanted to give you all a chance to answer kind of how you've been working through engagement and education and getting customer reaction to this. So I'd like to, on behalf of a couple different questions, pose this to all of you. Kevin, would you like to go first? I'm just picking on you.
Love to. So the one thing we did with our taste testing, that was kind of a grassroots, getting it out there in front of our residents. And they struggled at first, but once they tasted it, they were our best ambassadors. And we actually started getting more people emailing us and saying, wow, here you're doing great things. Like John pointed out, from a regional perspective, we're teaming up with the same PR firm that Kmiec has to start our messaging to get it out there. We've done more internal, and again, I'd say it's grassroots. Right now, we're teaming up with that PR firm. Actually got a meeting set up here soon to start our campaign, and also working with Kmiec on campaigning with the pure water too. That's probably one of the biggest efforts is get that marketing out of this is extremely safe water, and it does really taste good.
Jim?
Yeah, and I'll say that Scottsdale has been kind of the leader in that, right? They've been running their pilot for many years now. So they've had the beer brewing festivals where they'll actually take their water and brew beer. A lot of the breweries like it because there's, as John said, right, there's almost nothing in the water except for water, right? All of those chemicals and constituents and salts are all essentially removed for the most part. From Kmiec's standpoint, right, we're kind of following in Scottsdale's leadership. But the other thing we're doing too is we've gone out through our PR firm, and they've done surveys of our customers. And so when those surveys come back, 85% of them have no issues with accepting the water. And of the remaining balance, it's really just, I think it's an educational process to have them see it and understand it. And so that's where, again, we'll start working on our mobile trailer here in the next this fiscal year, this calendar year, to get that out to the public so we can kind of follow in Scottsdale's footsteps of getting people to see it, taste it. And essentially at the end of the day, we're going to be able to make a personalized water quality, right? Because there'll be essentially nothing in it. We're going to have to actually add minerals and chemicals back in the water. So it's not a highly corrosive pH water.
And thank you for that, Jim. If you make beer, you'll get a lot of people happy too.
John, you want to quickly say something because I have one or two more in the queue.
Just to add on to what Jim and Kevin said. Yeah. And so, Scottsdale has their demonstration facility. Kmiec is going to be doing their mobile demonstration facility. And then I mentioned Tucson's going to be doing their demonstration facility at the Sweetwater reclaim plant as well. And I think that is a key element to the success of any advanced water purification program. Is I think the community needs to have that demonstration facility. They like seeing the technology. They like seeing the confidence in those types of processes. Once they see it and touch it, and they can understand it, and at the end of the day, then they can taste it at the end of the process. And if all the breweries in Arizona are making beer with advanced purified water, that's going to only be a positive thing for all of us.
Yeah, Oregon has for a long time. California has. Anyway, two last things I want to bring up, and so if we could just give some brief answers. Faith Shelton noted that ASU has a water management degree program, and that there are students in need of internships and other things. And so I'm just going to bring that to your attention, so that if there are some opportunities, maybe Faith can follow up with you. But I did want to bring up the more general question of the operational staffing and expertise. Just so happened this morning in my graduate class in water policy, I had a water manager from our region, not John, because we put him to work here today, but from another, and he said, kind of, if there's something that keeps him up at night, it's the person power, having the personnel you need to do the work you have to do. Is that a concern at all here, or are you finding you've got the personnel and can expect to have the personnel you need for this endeavor, you know, a very high stakes one. You can give me yes, no, or maybe.
I think since it's going to be new for so many of our utilities, this is something that we're all looking at. How do we grow our own? How do we make sure the marketplace has water treatment operators that are skilled at these levels with these advanced technologies? So it's something that's going to develop while we're building these plants, and we're all in the same, I think, situation with that. But thankfully, I think we're going to get a lot of support from people around the state of Arizona, from ADEQ in particular, to make sure that we can start to develop and produce a marketplace for these operators of the future.
Yeah, I think I'd add briefly is that under the new Arizona rules, it's actually going to require an advanced operator certification. And so that's another thing that's above and beyond the current Safe Drinking Water Act. So it'll be a new new certification requirement. And so a lot of us are going to start working to get our staff trained on that so they can go and take those tests, pass those tests, and become certified operators.
Kevin, it sounds like you're nodding your head. One last question that was out there that I don't think we have the time to delve into, and I apologize if I missed a few others, and that is about water, I would say, that's sourced from industry as well as used by industry. And I don't think we have time to get into this in any depth, but John, I seem to recall you saying recently when we were interacting that the city may be looking at treatment or reclaimed water of different qualities for meeting different needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if any of you want to say anything about that, because this is really for drinking water, and there might be some other uses of different treatment trains. Excuse my not using proper engineering words. So as last words, if any of you want to say anything about that or anything else, and then we'll be done. We've gone over just a couple of minutes. So if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, thanks for bringing it up, Sharon. Yeah. So I mentioned the city of Tucson has a reclaimed water program for non-potable use for more than 40 years, and it covers our whole community in this area. So besides using treated effluent and all the way to drinking water, where we can do it at the regional wastewater treatment plants, we're also looking to diversify our portfolio and diversifying how our recycled water program works all together. And that can be industrial reuse. So industrial reuse is something that's growing throughout the country, throughout the world. And it's more or less partnering with private entities to create a designer water that meets their industrial need at the end of the pipe, and working collaboratively with that. So it's all about getting the best and most beneficial use out of a single drop of water, and then being able to do that multiple times. That's where the future of the industry is going.
Well, I don't hear any other comments on that, and we have gone about 3-4 minutes over. So I want to ask everybody in the audience to join me in thanking you three for wonderful presentations and responses to the questions. I want to thank those in attendance. We had a great turnout, and I want to thank you again for enlightening us, and wish everybody a great afternoon and weekend. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.